Stop planting hydrangeas the wrong way. I know that might sound dramatic, but hear me out. Every single year, thousands of gardeners make the same simple mistakes that cost them time, money, and worst of all, the chance to enjoy those huge, vibrant, jaw-dropping hydrangea blooms. Now take a look at this. On one side, we've got a lush, healthy hydrangea bush overflowing with blossoms. And on the other side, a plant that looks tired, wilted, and barely hanging on. The difference? It isn't luck. It comes down to a handful of mistakes that many people don't even realize they're making. So let me ask you, are your hydrangeas not blooming the way they should? Do they look more like the sad plant on the right than the full, colorful bush on the left? If so, chances are you're making at least one of these mistakes. And here's the kicker. Once you know what to avoid, growing gorgeous hydrangeas isn't complicated. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the top 5 hydrangea mistakes that stop your plants from thriving. And I'll also share bonus pro tips that even experienced gardeners overlook. By the end, you'll have a complete roadmap to healthier, stronger, and more beautiful hydrangeas in your garden. But before we dive in, if you love gardening tips and want your plants to thrive, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell. I post new guides every single week and I promise you, you don't want to miss them. Alright, let's jump in and fix those hydrangeas once and for all. Mistake number 1, and this is where most gardeners go wrong right from the start, is planting hydrangeas in the wrong soil and the wrong location. Hydrangeas are what I like to call picky but forgiving. They'll reward you with incredible blooms if you give them what they need. But if you cut corners here, they'll struggle year after year no matter what else you do. Let's start with the soil. Hydrangeas absolutely thrive in well-draining, nutrient-rich soil. That means it holds moisture, but it doesn't stay soggy. Picture it like a sponge that soaks up water but doesn't drip endlessly. If your soil is heavy clay, the water just sits there, drowning the roots. If it's too sandy, the water runs right through, leaving your plant thirsty. Neither is good. The solution: amend your soil before you plant. Mix in compost, leaf mold, or organic matter to improve both drainage and fertility. Think of it like building a cozy, nutrient-packed home for your hydrangea's roots. A soil testing kit can also be a game-changer here. It'll tell you whether your soil leans acidic or alkaline, which actually affects the color of certain hydrangea blooms. More on that later in the video. Now let's talk about location. Hydrangeas love the sweet spot between light and shade. Morning sun with afternoon shade is ideal. The gentle morning light helps them produce strong blooms. But by the time the afternoon heat rolls in, they're protected. Plant them in full, blazing sun all day, and you'll see scorched leaves, dry soil, and a plant that always looks stressed. Plant them in deep, heavy shade, and you'll get lots of green leaves, but almost no flowers. And trust me, I've learned this lesson the hard way. I once planted a hydrangea in a spot that got sun from dawn till dusk, thinking more sun meant more flowers. Within a few weeks, the poor thing looked crispy, leaves curled, edges brown, and no blooms in sight. It was basically telling me, hey, I can't survive here. I ended up digging it up and moving it to a shadier corner, and within a season, it bounced back beautifully. So here's the golden rule. Give your hydrangeas a balanced environment, well-draining, organic-rich soil beneath their roots and dappled or partial shade above their heads. If you can nail these two things, you've already solved half the battle of hydrangea care. And don't just guess. Take a moment to test your soil, observe the sun patterns in your yard, and choose a location where your hydrangea can thrive year after year. That little bit of planting up front makes all the difference between a struggling plant and one that stops people in their tracks. Mistake number 2, and this one is a silent killer for hydrangeas, is watering the wrong way. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. It's watering. How hard can it be? But with hydrangeas, the difference between the right and wrong watering method is the difference between a lush, thriving bush and a plant that limps along, always looking stressed. Here's the problem most gardeners run into. They give hydrangeas a quick sprinkle across the top of the soil, maybe a minute or two with the hose, maybe a spray from a sprinkler. And sure, the soil surface looks wet, but just a few inches down, the roots are bone dry. Hydrangeas have fairly deep root systems, and they need water to reach all the way down there, not just skim the surface. So here's the fix. Hydrangeas prefer a deep soak less often. Instead of daily sprinkles, aim for 2 to 3 deep waterings per week, especially during hot summer spells. Let the water run slowly, giving it time to seep deep into the ground. A drip irrigation line or soaker hose is perfect because it delivers water right at the soil level directly to the roots. And here's a bonus trick. Add a 2 to 3 inch layer of mulch around the base of your hydrangea. Mulch helps the soil hold on to moisture, keeps the root zone cool, and reduces the number of times you need to water. Just be sure not to pile it right up against the crown of the plant. Leave a little breathing space to prevent rot. Now here's a personal story. When I first started with hydrangeas, I treated them like my lawn. Quick sprays every day, just enough to darken the soil surface. The plants looked fine at first, but within weeks, the leaves started drooping every afternoon, even though I thought they were getting plenty of water. That's when I learned the hard truth. Shallow watering trains the roots to stay near the surface, making them more vulnerable to heat and drought. Once I switched to slow, deep watering, the difference was night and day. The plants perked up, the leaves stayed lush, and the blooms lasted far longer. So remember this. With hydrangeas, it's not about how often you water, it's about how deeply you water. Give them a steady drink that reaches the roots, protect the soil with mulch, and you'll have a plant that thrives even when the summer sun is at its strongest. Mistake number 3. Now pruning might seem simple. Cut back the old wood, shape the plant a little, and you're done, right? Well, not with hydrangeas, because here's the tricky part. Not all hydrangeas bloom the same way. Some bloom on old wood, and others bloom on new wood. And if you don't know which type you have, you can accidentally cut off every single flower bud for the season. Let me break this down. Big leaf hydrangeas, the ones with those classic mop head or lace cap blooms, and oak leaf hydrangeas bloom on old wood. That means the flower buds for next summer are formed on the stems that grew this year. So if you prune them in late winter or early spring, guess what? You just cut off all the buds before they had a chance to bloom. You'll be left with lots of green leaves, but no flowers. On the other hand, panicle hydrangeas and smooth hydrangeas bloom on new wood. Their buds form on fresh growth that emerges in spring. That means you can prune them back in late winter or early spring without fear, and they'll still give you a full show of flowers that summer. So how do you know what you've got? The easiest way is to check the variety when you buy it. Or if you're not sure, observe your plant. If your hydrangea blooms early in the season, chances are it's an old wood bloomer. If it blooms later in summer, it's probably a new wood type. Now let me tell you a quick story. A few years ago, I had this gorgeous big leaf hydrangea that had been in the garden for years. It was my pride and joy. One early spring, I thought I'd be proactive, clean it up, and give it a nice shape. I pruned it way back, thinking I was helping it out. Well, that year it gave me nothing. Not a single bloom. Just a big, leafy green shrub sitting there mocking me all summer long. I learned the hard way that I'd cut off every single flower bud before they had a chance to grow. And I know I'm not alone. This is one of the most common mistakes gardeners make. So here's the golden rule. Know your hydrangea type before you pick up the pruners. If it's an old wood variety, prune it immediately after flowering, not in spring. If it's a new wood variety, late winter or early spring pruning is perfectly fine. If you only take one thing from this section, let it be this. The wrong timing can cost you an entire year of flowers. Get it right, and your hydrangea will reward you with blooms that just keep coming back. Mistake number 4 is all about fertilizer and soil pH, and it's one of those areas where people either do too much or nothing at all. Both extremes can cause trouble. Here's the thing. Hydrangeas are not heavy feeders, but they do need the right balance of nutrients to produce big, colorful blooms. The mistake I see all the time? Gardeners dumping on loads of nitrogen-rich fertilizer, the kind you'd use for lawns. Sure, the plant grows a ton of lush green leaves, but when it comes time to bloom, nothing. Not a single flower. What hydrangeas really want is a balanced, slow-release fertilizer, something like a October 10th, 10 or 14-14-14. Apply it once in early spring as the plant starts to wake up, and again in midsummer if needed. This way, the nutrients are released gradually, feeding the plant steadily instead of overwhelming it. Now let's talk about something fascinating. Soil pH. Did you know that the pH of your soil actually determines the color of certain hydrangea flowers? Big leaf hydrangeas are famous for this. In acidic soil, pH below 6, the blooms turn blue. In neutral to alkaline soil, pH above 7, they turn pink. So if you've ever wondered why your hydrangea is bright blue while yours is bubblegum pink, that's the reason. If you want to adjust your bloom color, you can. Adding garden lime raises the pH, shifting blooms toward pink. Adding aluminum sulfate lowers the pH, shifting them toward blue. It doesn't happen overnight. It usually takes a season or two, but it's a fun experiment if you like playing with color in your garden. Quick story. I once had 2 hydrangeas planted side by side, and to my surprise, one was blooming blue and the other pink. Same variety, same fertilizer, but different soil conditions. It was the pH. From then on, I started testing my soil regularly, and I could actually influence the bloom color depending on what I wanted for that season. So here's the takeaway. Don't overfeed your hydrangeas and don't ignore your soil. Test it, balance it, and give your plant the steady nutrition it needs. Do that and you'll have not only healthier shrubs, but blooms that are vibrant, full, and maybe even the exact color you want. Mistake number 5 is one of those sneaky ones that you might not notice until years later. Planting hydrangeas too deep or too close together. When you first buy a hydrangea from the nursery, it comes in a neat little pot. You dig a hole, drop it in, cover it up, and it seems fine. But here's where people go wrong. They bury the crown of the plant too deep under the soil. The crown, that's where the stems meet the roots, should sit right at ground level, not below it. If it's buried, moisture builds up around that crown and encourages rot. And once rot sets in, the whole plant struggles. So the rule is simple. Keep the crown at the soil surface. When you fill in your planting hole, make sure the top of that root ball is flush with the ground, not an inch below. Now spacing. Hydrangeas may look small when you first plant them, but give them a few years and they can grow into massive sprawling shrubs. I've seen the gardeners pack them in too close because they wanted instant impact. And 3 years later, the plants are battling for air and light, with mildew spreading because there's no room to breathe. Depending on the variety, hydrangeas need anywhere from 3 feet to 10 feet of space between them. Big leaf types can manage 3 to 4 feet apart, while panicles may need closer to 6 to 10 feet. It might feel like you're leaving too much empty space at first, but trust me, your future self will thank you when the shrubs mature and still have good airflow. And airflow is huge. Without it, you're inviting fungal diseases, powdery mildew, and stressed plants that never live up to their potential. I made this mistake early on in my garden. I planted 3 hydrangeas in a tight triangle because I thought they'd look fuller. For the first year, they looked beautiful. By year 3, they were so cramped that 2 of them were fighting for space, leaves yellowing, and the middle one practically disappeared. I ended up digging them up and spacing them out properly. And suddenly, they all bounced back. So here's the bottom line. Don't suffocate your hydrangeas. Plant them at the right depth, give them room to spread their branches, and you'll be rewarded with healthy, open shrubs that bloom year after year. We've covered a lot in this video, so here's a quick recap to lock it in. Mistake 1. Planting in the wrong soil and location. Hydrangeas need rich, well-draining soil and that perfect balance of morning sun with afternoon shade. Mistake 2. Shallow, inconsistent watering. Deep soak a few times a week and protect those roots with mulch. Mistake 3. Pruning at the wrong time. Know your type, old wood or new wood before you cut, or risk losing all your flowers for the season. Mistake 4. Over-fertilizing or ignoring soil pH. Use a balanced, slow-release fertilizer and remember, pH affects bloom color. Mistake 5. Planting too deep or close together. Keep the crown level with the soil and give your shrubs space to breathe. And of course, we went over those bonus mistakes and pro tips, things like avoiding competition with tree roots, protecting from winter damage, and always testing your soil. Together, these are the keys to hydrangeas that don't just survive, but truly thrive. Now, I want to hear from you. Which of these mistakes have you been making without realizing it? Was it watering, pruning, or maybe soil and sunlight? Drop your answer down in the comments. I read every single one, and your experiences help other gardeners learn too. And if this video helped you, please give it a thumbs up. It really supports the channel and tells me to make more content like this. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss my weekly gardening guides. I've got more tips on hydrangeas, plus deep dives into other plants that will transform your garden. And if you know a fellow gardener who's struggling with their hydrangeas, share this video with them. They'll thank you later. Thanks for spending time with me today. Take these tips, put them into action, and I promise your hydrangeas will reward you with blooms that stop people in their tracks. I'll see you in the next video.